Hey Alonso, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, it's a pleasure. You used to do some videos by yourself and me by myself. I think it's really cool that we can do this together because, to those who don't know him, Alonso is our creative director at Sales Genomics, and he's the person who has actually built our creative department from the ground up. Is creatives are responsible for all the different new changes that we've made in the creative departments recently, and I think that's super exciting, and a lot of people can benefit from that as well. So what's the new things that you've been working on?
Currently, really trying to understand how we can pass on knowledge from our teams in the department because we're seeing sort of a division, experts and editors that are really good at executing stuff and people that are really good at going, behind the marketing ideas and all within the realm of editing. So we thought that in the beginning we could just do a training and then explain some marketing stuff. And we quickly saw that the ones that were good at the technical stuff weren't so fast to pick up, and be so proactive. They are good at getting the footage. They're good at following the instructions of what you want. But if you ask them to go on and about and find new angles, so you came up with the idea that we should try this mentor, this junior senior idea of finding the ones in our department which are good at the marketing parts and then working with the executing guys on certain parts so that we can work together on this and then one turns the ideas into step by step actionables and the other executes, and then we've seen already that the guys are picking up, and then they get to learn as well as seeing the process behind, which seems much better than just giving you a list of things. So this is one of the things that I'm really excited to work and see the progress on currently.
Yeah, I'm super excited how fast they're learning as well. This is, we have those weekly stand-ups and the kind of daily check-ins from the team, and like the quality is like it's just, it's been good before, but now it's like improving like so fast. And sometimes I see some of your ads and I'm like, wow, this is like so spot on.
Awesome. This is really great. But I think the best thing is that, for example, when I was just in the beginning editing stuff, for me it was really cool just to see the output of what I created and see it perform. Whereas if I'm on a side where I'm get others to improve, things become a little bit less tangible, which to me was something difficult to adjust. But then once we set the metrics and we are looking at not just the performance, but we are also measuring, creative output and progress in other ways, then I start to get more comfortable because I see, okay, this is an area that I need to improve. This is an area that we're actually seeing progress. This is really great because at the end of the day, it's just, outputting good quality content, and if we're getting there, this is what's all about.
Yeah. So you guys are also doing great on kind of improving the efficiency, right? And like the strategists are setting some really aggressive targets with creatives, and I know that you
Yeah.
guys have met it for 2 consecutive months now, so it's really amazing. And we still have some spare capacity, so this is really great. And on top of that, the creatives are actually working and improving on the client's bottom line. So this is really cool. But yeah, so like how was the transition for you from this kind of more like an expert role to a level higher and managing people and other responsibilities? Did you feel that you were ready for that transition, or like how did the process go?
I thought it would go one way and it went another. I thought that it would be easy to just, okay, do this and that. And I thought that communicating something to another person that wasn't in the same field as me was, something that you do that would be, presumably easy, which wasn't the case at all. And like you said, now that we have this insight that we have executing people and people on the thinking side, it's easier. But before it wasn't. So that I have an idea and I'd say, okay, can we do this? And this angle, test this, and then what I would receive was not the actual endpoint of it. So, and it started happening a lot. So I was saying, okay, it's maybe not the guys because the guys are good, is the way that I'm communicating. So how can I communicate in a way that's going to improve their workflow? Because what I saw is that I was spending way more time trying to come up with a way to communicate and sometimes I just want to go and do it myself, you know. So this was the biggest challenge for me. How can I get just the essential information and let their creativity guide them? So this is what I've been trying to do, and my biggest challenge, going from the executing side of doing this stuff on my own head, then having to communicate creative approaches to others, and really not have so much control, because I want to have control over the creatives, but I cannot just, if I do this, this is ineffective. I have to hand you the core point and let you work it out.
Accepting the fact that the people that you delegate to sometimes may not be as good as you at first, but if you just keep doing that and keep giving feedback and
They
just
surprise you, yeah.
they're gonna get there, right?
They're going to surprise you for sure. So that's was this transition. It's still happening at some point, but we're getting better at it, and I'm really excited to see what we can output.
Yeah, and so one question, I'm not sure if this is the most comfortable topic for you, but I also know that like you had to let go of one of your team members recently. So like, can you walk us through the reasons? Like, why did you decide to do it now instead of like waiting until this person hopefully improves?
It's I know that you guys on the data hungry want to have a very 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 logical point reason, but the thing is, especially when you are so familiar with the field, we can forecast, okay, I can train you in some parts, but you are here, you should know some basics. Otherwise I'm just getting someone that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on the training side. The fact that we have some creative experts that are not so keen on certain parts, but I can delegate tasks and I can trust that they're going to do their best. So this was something with this particular person that I did not feel trust that he was particularly going to give his best. I did not feel trust that he was going to read the whole task and to do and follow things, or at least focus on the most important. And we saw a lot of lack of skills on the editing part. We do not expect them to come knowing so much of marketing, but a lot of the editing things that we should have on our workflow just for being in this field were already lacking, to the point that I had to ask, how long have you been editing videos? How long have you been in this field? So at this point, there were a lot of things in his workflow, in his work ethics, that were not fits to how we go about doing our workflow, and it was just going to be measuring how much work, how much energy was going to be put on his training, as opposite to just having somebody new in the team. So all of these things were put on a balance, and then, okay, we let you go because of this and that reason, and also explaining to him why he was being let go of the team, because he has the reason to, the rights to know, and he can improve so himself. It is uncomfortable, but it was a very solid decision. I had no doubts whatsoever that that was the best decision.
Yeah, and so and we have to move fast, right? So like get people on a like test period, and then if they don't perform, it's for yourself. It's more stress than and time.
So much stress.
Yeah,
So
and
much stress.
important. Like sometimes, like people hang on too long to people who, maybe they don't have the attitude, or they don't have the aptitude to learn, or just, eventually maybe they would have learned, but, we just don't have that time to get people up the learning curve, right? It might be a better idea to just, get them up to speed faster. Like it's definitely, an important milestone in the role of the manager, right? To also let go of however uncomfortable it might have been.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
to talk about some of the other stuff we've got to set out. So the first point on our list is to talk about the video at creative conversion principles. So I know that you guys have checklists and processes and kind of control
Yep.
mechanisms to ensure that, like we're following all the right kind of thinking process in the creatives. Do you want to tell us about that?
I think, if you already watch, one thing or two about the marketing principles. But the thing about our workflow is that sometimes we have to act fast, like you said, especially when I go oversee some process, or see what a video editor is doing. I don't have to like spend 4 hours analyzing everything, but like at a quick glance, and this is like my idea of the workflow in the video principles, that at a quick glance you can already identify a lot of stuff that you can try. On our workflow, we have the client survey. That's the primary thing that we go when we onboard our clients, and when we have new experts coming on our project. Have a look there, because there we're going to have, amidst all of the other questions that you guys have on the distributing ads, we have audience, we have competitors, We have the reasons, real and emotional, why clients, go to you to buy your product, what's your mission. And with all of this, we start structuring, okay, these are the avatars, these are the ideas, these are the angles that are working. And then sort of we have a baseline where we can start creating, right? Whether it's image or video, but we know the person and we know the reasons and we know the brand mission. So from there, we start having a look at the competitors. We start having a look at content that actually worked. We have our internal tools for that, but also Facebook ads library is also good. But just having an idea of, okay, there exists this audience and how are other, competitors talking to them, both on copy and on angles, imagery. And this is, a quick glance, you can get the idea. Okay, these guys are just using the slideshows. That's that, just some basic images. So you don't have to, do a Hollywood production at first, because this is the way that this audience responds. They do not, necessarily request more engagement. The image does the job. So these are the things that for you understand that you can have it all on a document or on a swipe file. But these are things that can be shared across experts, that they can quickly get on board and understand what this is all about. Otherwise, you just put in images and videos and not really knowing what you're doing. Once you have that, this is not going to change weekly, right? So this is really good. Once you understand it, you've had an analysis of your own, you can just quickly, couch switch between projects and you can get there, hit the ground running because you know what you're creating. This is our internal process of, creating converting principles for videos, which is just teaming off of really understanding the brand mission, the competitors, who are the avatars, who are the people that we're creating these videos for.
The actual, like pointers from the checklist, what do we look for in a creative that actually has a chance of converting, aside from, of course, it being based on, like targeting the right audience and based on the right kind of, like objections and so on.
The first thing, of course, is the hook. I think hooks are also really, really can be specific to certain audiences as well. We just really want to test, right? Because you might have a really good creative, but like I said, we miss the chance if you don't have an interesting hook. So that's our ideas and processes for hook is basically what can you pull from the imagery, and really it doesn't have to sell a whole story, but it just has to be something that's both visually engaging, that is going to, in the first seconds make you question something like what is going on here. This doesn't, it just breaks from your pattern as a whole. And that can be used in effects, that can be used image that suggests something that is going to happen. Whatever you can do that piques your interest, not necessarily that is going to be on brand or tell the story, but this is, you have a lot of competition on a feed. You really have to to get it out of your way to create something that's going to flash. And after that, we have a really big challenge, which is is making people stay on your video. As many people know, the great majority will accidentally watch a video or will just scroll away. And then you start with pattern breaks. But then you have to really start communicating. Once you get their attention, what is that audience about, right? What are you looking for to solve the problems? What are the motivators? What are the barriers? These are the things that, not just pattern breaks, but these are the things that are going to push them towards the video and watching the rest. These are the points that we start dissecting and put it across the video to make sure that they get through and that they actually, engage or, go to the landing page. So we have hook, we have planning the angles, we have going through the performance of the video, checking on that ad account what worked before, and sort of dissecting, okay, what are the principles? Was it the angle? Was it the hook? Was it some particular copy that was used that worked here? And then either combining or getting ideas off of that and testing individually or making iterations of the video.
Yeah, we also conversations about kind of the the modularity of the ads that we're making, especially the videos, right? So where like you can almost reuse the hooks, right, across the different videos, and then test like different hooks with different angles, different hooks with different kind of headline copies and so on. This is really interesting what you guys are doing. And also another thing that I think that listeners should hear about is like how we balance out the nativity of the ads with the like pure attention grabbing. Like, do you want to talk about that a bit?
This is something that's going to vary a little bit, right, from client to clients. It really, because, for example, we take something that, a product that you eat, right, a product that you put on your face or something. We see that they really request, people really respond to those things that, involve a higher amount of trust. if we're seeing somebody do it. And it begins from there, right? So certain projects, certain products are cool to have like super high quality photos or close-ups, but I think the base principle is that, okay, is it necessary? Are most competitors doing content that's super native? And what does trust much higher factor here? Because of course it is for our products, but for some brands it is imperative, for some niches it's imperative to see others using and endorsing much more than just a product photo. So I think we begin from there. And then on the case of balancing out, it can be within the actual creative, right? We can put some videos, we can put some stuff, but also just creating different styles. We have some with templates, we have some that are testing, just user generated videos that we do not want to touch so much, just to, not give the impression that it's filtered in any way. And I think that's the point. Sometimes people really just want to see unfiltered content for things that they really feel the need to trust. I mean, you wouldn't buy something that you ingest, like a pill or something, and then you really need to see people do this every day and say that, okay, I've done this for weeks, for months, it's working for me. Because otherwise you're not just going to get on a landing page and do it. So this is why the process, okay, we really should get native here.
Yeah, definitely the nativity. But I was super surprised when, like we had this project where, none of the ads were working, and then you guys put together this really like flashy spinning background with a product shot on it just to get something fast. That's creative. Funny.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like you said, I think if we look at on a campaign level, it's for everything to work, there has to be like a certain variety of ads, but it comes down to testing, right? So we thought that, okay, we really need to give all of this information to explain this product, but just some simple gift and a flashing background did do the job, and people followed through to then get the information on the copy and on the landing page. It comes down to testing, and then once we have an idea that the audience is responding to that type, then we create more. And I think that's how you should balance the nativity. For this client in particular, we do have now UGC content ready to be used, so that we're going to test now and see how they're going to respond to it. Just not following on a formula exactly, because this gift doesn't have any information, headlines, nothing, and it worked. So
now that we're on it, actually, because like this project that we had, the challenge with it was, and I know that a lot of people out there are struggling with it as well, is getting the footage to actually have the tools to make creatives as well. Because if you don't have them, you're kind of stuck with just playing around with images, right? So how do you guys, what kind of sources of footage did you guys identify, and where do we get our footage from?
So we have a list that we're growing actually from sources, but initially, if we're really desperate, we really needed SAP, we can use stock, of course. But lately we've been implementing this model where clients will just ship us the products. What we do is that we can shoot ourselves, we can prepare briefs. So we have, conceived ideas that we want to shoot. Of course, it's not always the case. We have some brands that are dealing with, feminine clothing. That's not necessarily something that we can shoot ourselves. So then we go to Fiverr, and we go to source actors and influencers as well, so that we have a variety of ways to get the footage depending on the niche and on the particular need that we have. So yeah, so that would be Fiverr, Upwork, sourcing actors, influencers, and ourselves shooting, and sometimes stock footage. So there's a wide ways to get footage depending on what we're aiming at and depending on the niche as well.
Yeah, and it's awesome what you guys do with the footage, right? And it's awesome that we kind of have this. We have a massive team. Whenever we need kind of pretty much any kind of footage, we just ship the product to one of our team members. They shoot it. If you need a girl, it goes to the girl, or you shoot your girlfriend or something. If we need a family, we ship everything to Brian, which is really cool.
Yeah, so I think it's just we can get interesting footage, but we really need to sort of get an idea of what we're going to do, because we can just hold the product or take a picture or two. But once we know what we want, we can really do cool stuff ourselves. It doesn't really have to be that complicated, and it's really interesting to see what the guys have been doing with the products. I mean, products that you don't really know how you're going to pull off something interesting and cool with it, and then you do brainstorming with the team. What can you do on the end of the day with like a package or something? How can I turn this into an interesting stuff and footage? So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the idea that we had. I'm not sure if we've spoken about this, but for one of the brands, probably around the end of the year, we're going to be testing this, like cinematographic kind of bacon and eggs style. So I'm super excited about that. I hope we can pull it off because those kind of, high-end productions is something new for us. Let's see how it goes. But I think that, this style is particularly awesome because those are the things that go viral, right? And we know we'll create those, virality principles into all of our ads. And yeah, I think that this one in particular format, it's like I have high hopes for it, but let's see what happens.
Not only do they go viral, but they're much more stable, right? I think that's something also interesting for branding. A lot of what we do it's to bring immediate impact, and I think those higher budget videos they do both. They sort of they have this seed money for the branding, but also they cause an impact both immediate and on a larger scale. So really excited for that as well. What we can do with those videos.
Just to sum it up, so some of the sources of footage is, like, of course, if you're completely desperate, you don't have anything, stock footage is your friend. You've got a lot of
Yeah, exactly.
others, you just ship them products, they do model shots,
Yep.
they do images. We do videos and photos ourselves as well. We've got this higher end video production studio that we own as well, that we sometimes would use. We've got, what else? Is there anything else that I didn't mention? Influencers is another thing, right?
Influencers.
My problem with
Exactly.
is it's typically quite slow, right? So that's why like Fiverr is faster than influencers. If we have some concept that we want to implement, quickly, then we're gonna go this way rather than waiting for influencers. Maybe.
Exactly. The influencers bigger process because it's not just paid. It's not paid ads. It's organic stuff. They have their own creative styles and workflow and things are a bit slower there. They're good, but if you're really desperate for it, yeah, then either just shipping to the team, or Fiverr would be a best option. But ideally, yeah, having all of those because as you have so many different products and issues, we really do use all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So we spoke about the competitor research. You mentioned that you guys are using the Facebook Ads Library. Another tool that we use, and this is really cool, is called Power Ads Spy. I know there's, the variation of it, but it's really, really cool because it not only lets you see the ads that are running, but actually it lets you kind of look at the proxy of whether the ad has actually worked by looking, by sorting it out through, how long they've been running, what kind of like engagement they've got, and so on. So we
Yeah,
use
exactly.
as well. Now, how do you guys get, how do you do the research to arrive at the niche angles and get deep into customers' heads? What kind of places on the internet or, on the client side do you look at?
If you're looking at people that are already close to buying some product, and that would be, some barriers that they might have, you can go like to Amazon. You can look at competitors' products that are in the same, and you're gonna get a lot of questions that are really interesting there. That is going to rely, on what people are actually, raising in terms of objections once they are close to buying. But another thing, blog posts and reviews of the products, they're actually interesting because you also have barriers and ideas that people might have, as they are just being exposed to the product. So that is also something that when we want to reach broad audiences, what are the ideas of that? If you just go to Amazon reviews or some other questions on YouTube on a certain product, those people are really close to buying the product. So they are going to objections on that funnel stage. These are the main ideas that we raise barriers in terms of the funnel and understand and sort of work our way up to the top of the funnel and then understand what are people going to have in terms of objections there, and then sort of try to work out the motivators based on, because it's difficult for people to rationalize why they bought something. They can say it's the features and they can say it's the quality, but most of the time it isn't. We don't make decisions based on just sometimes we do. We're just comparing, we go to the supermarket and look at the prices and we make a decision there, but for the most part it is not. It is an emotional decision. That's what we're interested in the most, and that's why so much testing has to go. So these are the processes, just looking at blog posts and reviews and not taking things that are said as okay, this is my idea, this is my angle. No, but you have to go a little bit deeper and sort of brainstorm emotional reasons why you would do something, and then check a lot with your client, with your project, because the client knows the audience best, right? Most of the time they have really solid ideas why they're buying what they're buying. But a lot of times you can get surprised by people are doing or buying something. This is what we are after the most. We start with the objections, we look at the motivators, we look at the avatars, and we try to understand why you would do something like this. So we have a client that sells blankets, right, for camping and outdoor stuff. People say it's quality, people say it's product, benefits of its durability and stuff, but we start to understand that it's much more about either decompressing and going outdoors, or like bonding with your family and getting out to the outdoors in nature to do that kind of stuff, or to having an introspection moment or reflection. So I go from the features and I go to a much higher level where we try to understand the emotional reasons, and then work our way back to have copy and videos and images that support those, and then go and test. So these are ways in which we can get inside their minds, and that involves Amazon, that involves going Reddit, going to forums, and searching why people buy what they buy. And they're going to tell you features and benefits, but we really have to have an imaginative head a little bit to get to the emotional points.
Important skill here is to be able to filter through the fake comments on Amazon as well. I've seen some
Yeah, that's
sound like an SEO bot generated.
yeah, those are pretty easy to spot. I mean, come on. But yeah.
Hurting their conversion rates. I'm 100% sure about that. But yeah, Amazon is a gold mine. Through Amazon, and just doing the VPN search in whatever country we're selling, and looking at reviews and what's happening on the search, because you would be surprised how much stuff is happening. One of our brands, they found that their sales were actually being cannibalized by people reselling their products on some retail websites at lower prices, because they were also like selling in the subscription boxes, right? That's really unacceptable, because especially with niches where there's a lot of research going on behind it, like we really need to understand those aspects as well. And that's not that's related to the creators, but just came to my mind. And I think it's something that if every single one of our team members does the research, somebody's going to spot all those kind of pitfalls of the campaigns.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you just look at
That's true.
it and so on, you're going to 100% miss it. One other thing is our team is, you guys made an amazing progress. And so tell me, what is that set of processes? How do we give feedback, and, what the meeting structures like? In other words, what's the process through which we transform those decent video editors into performance marketing experts?
It's a lot of stuff, but I think we'd begin. What I can do is go at our weekly evaluation, right? So basically what I do is that I go back a week and try to understand everything that was done. It's easy with so much stuff going on that you can get lost in the moment, but I always take my time to go back and see everything. And then we start to analyze case by case, but we are not necessarily innovating or creating something different. Sometimes the strategists will just ask plain stuff, and then we have to do it. But once I get an assessment of what was done in the past week, then I start sort of getting touch base with each of the experts, and then getting sort of a little bit more information on what happened in this project, what happened here, what was the reason behind it, what was your process to decide that was the best idea to execute, right? I have also a look at the task description to make sure that there's no mismatches there. And then once you start to explain your reasons and get stuff out, then we start discussing it in a very organic way. What we can do, what could happen differently. This was good. This was awesome. This worked. And then indirectly you're teaching the person, or you're exchanging knowledge, right? Okay, so you can do this and this next time. And then also always pointing back to our training to say, okay, seems like your angle is a little bit all over the place. Maybe we can make something that is a little bit more solid. I have this example here, but you can also check on the training document. We can go back to it. And this step by step we go improving, step by step we go falling on a workflow that we're all sort of sharing, because we all have our creativity, but if we have a base workflow, then things are really good to be able to to scale the team. So, and on a weekly basis, what we do is that we go through the performance of each, what we created in the past week, and then we try to analyze in the numbers what happened. We try to compare to the best creative, the best performing of the account, and then we try to set up new steps of what we can do, what is something that we can do based on this information that we have now on our analysis. And so it's both an individual approach of looking and of mentoring and of exchanging information, and then on a higher level as we move as a team, because I think this is the the most important part. Not too much time you fall back, okay, it's every man for themselves, but this does not work here. We really have to make sure, okay, if I'm doing my work better, then the media buyer will be also having a good day because he won't be having to work as much, and then the strategist will have peace of mind of this and that. So if we are aware that we are horizontally with our peers and vertically to the people above us, then we're truly working and moving as a team. So I think those are really interesting points.
I think like the biggest probably difference in what we're doing is the constant feedback that people are getting, right? So those daily sync-ins, so everybody is just getting feedback on their creatives every day, and it's like bam, 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 you didn't do this, you consider that, blah, blah, right? So we really, I think that this is like the feedback and the fact that people are constantly getting, this improvement triggers, right? It's really, really cool. And, the insights into performance, which I think is, the main difference between a video editor and a performance creative expert, right, is the data analysis part, right? And the marketing psychology. So, we train our team a lot on like how to look at data, and both in the Facebook Ads Manager by themselves, and then in our creative report that we're constantly improving. We want them to understand what's the impact of the decisions that they make and how everything that they make compares to the best performance, so that like their understanding of the customer avatars and the angles that they work, they evolve over time, because this is like the main difference between an editor that's working off a brief versus a marketing expert that understands the customer psychology and and the methodical scientific testing process as well.
Exactly. But also to extend, because we saw that a lot of strategists were having this difficulty in asking actually to have a middle person in there between the executing guy and the strategist, because they say, okay, I like this stuff, can you do it? But sometimes they cannot translate and put into words the exact creative approach that they want. And they would miss it a lot with experts that do not know how to read, those marketing cues that, he's throwing. And then you have this faulty communication, and then strategists will just settle for what they get, be really stressed because they do not know how to communicate it. So this is what we're trying to also solve, so that you can understand the strategist side and then really translate those into creative decisions and make your work more efficient, because you don't have to get crazy in the effects and the visuals, because sometimes they do not want this. You can make something quality, and we don't mean video quality, we mean more marketing quality, and this is what we're trying to explain and get this, up to speed, and we've been accomplishing that quite well. So that's really great.
So like what we're working on now. So what's the next biggest challenge that you're trying to solve?
That would be our huge, because we have our sources of content already, Fiverr, influencers, and ourselves. But I really want to expand on a huge contact list. That would be, I'd say, cheaper, but I would also say more variety of content. What we're basically trying to do is structure like an internal Upwork almost, that we have this huge list of contacts that we can go, and they are separated in niches, and then we can quickly pull content, and then we create briefs. And this is like my major project that I'm really excited to work on, because I really want to have steps and we can construct the briefs, identify which contents and contacts as well, and get the footage and establish this process in which we can quickly get this.
Essentially going to be a database of actors, right?
Exactly. Right, actors, I think influencers as well, but basically the idea is that we can quickly identify the niches and say, okay, so you're in a project and you need this and that. So we structure a brief and we find the best person for it that has a particular creative workflow, and that they do something. We really want to have this huge list that we can always rely on for content.
And then another thing which I'm super excited about, and we're to getting that, is the report we're working on. Like most of our idea about the creative performance is coming back from the ads manager, which is not always the perfect place. So this new report that is going to let us kind of, break down the creatives by angles and by avatars, and, really analyze performance at a more conceptual level. This is, I think, what's going to get us to the absolute next level, and this is going to be super cool.
This is going to be awesome, because the idea that we can, because the ad manager on Facebook do not necessarily allow it, but the idea that we can compare angles, that the creatives that we made, or compare hooks, or compare even avatars or ideas and get metrics, this is going to be groundbreaking, because then we can really have solid ground to say, okay, we've tested all of this. We currently can test on the ad level, right? On Facebook Ads Manager as well. When we search through an ads and then we compare to the base, that's okay. We can make analysis on that. But then to go to higher levels of abstraction of angles, avatars, of copy that is attached to a video, then this can really enlighten how and what message is getting through and at what levels. So this is going to be groundbreaking, that we can pull this information quickly and make decisions, both on a level and on the execute level, because we want guys to track independently as well. And if they can go on a tool that is much more intuitive and that they can, get solid grounds on what they're searching, this is going to be great. And also, because of the naming system, we are sort of forced to really think things through, because for a video, we have to know, according to our name system, the angle, we have to know the hook, we have to know the copy, we have to know if there is an avatar, audience segment, what is this video pointing exactly. So we structure a lot more our heads, because we really have to on the naming system. So it's just not a video one that you throw out. It has to be consistent. And that is going to force ourselves to think way more on that. And then we can pull this data across many different videos and see what's working on a very different level.
That's been a super productive session. Any kind of last remarks? Any resources that are cool that you can recommend to our listeners?
In terms of resources, there are a lot of blogs, a lot of groups on Facebook that are constantly, sharing really super interesting creatives that they see. And I think one of these is the Social Savannah. And it's just interesting because, there are a lot of stuff being thrown out there that do not particularly, have the standards of what we do, even in the practices of native ads. And they're being generated all the time. And these people, whenever they see something that attracted them, whether they're, biased to it because they're the audience, or it's just something that attracted, they post there. So I'm always constantly looking for ideas on those blog posts, on those, Facebook groups, because they are what's happening right now, right? So you can get a pretty good assessment whether people are engaging to certain formats, to certain ideas, to certain hooks. So I think that's something that you and your team should really definitely be checking on a weekly basis to get ideas and inspirations for videos.
Yeah, the group is really cool. Definitely recommend it. Right, Alonso, thanks a lot. Super cool to have you here, and I will see you in another podcast.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot for staying till the very end. This was e-commerce scaling strategies by Sales Genomics, brought to you by Matt from Sales Genomics. If you're interested in more tips and strategies on how to scale your e-commerce business, visit our Facebook group called e-commerce scaling strategies by Sales Genomics, or follow us on social media.